An exhilarating heli-skiing trip in the breathtaking Swiss Alps takes a sudden and terrifying turn. As a helicopter carrying a group of adventurers crashes into the Petit Combin peak, despite the chaos and danger, and just before the aircraft plunges down the mountainside, one man managed to push two brothers out of harm's way and thus saved their lives. This crash then triggered an avalanche, and the hero of the story found himself not buried under the snow, but instead injured and stranded on a narrow ledge. Facing the harsh alpine elements, rescue teams battled the treacherous conditions trying to locate survivors before more tragedy struck. Welcome back to Tragedy with a View. I am your host, Kayla, and we are doing another solo episode. I think you should expect some more solo episodes as my schedule is kind of crazy right now. My preference, is always to get you guys the content rather than to sit and wait on it until I can coordinate some time to get with a co-host and record these episodes. So I am prioritizing the consistency over, perfection, and not ideal. I know it's not ideal, but that's where I'm at right now. I do want to take a moment to thank Tammy and Jamie for joining us on Patreon. Your support is very much appreciated, and it helps this podcast to grow and take on new tasks, such as a series that will be coming in February. If you listen to the last two subscriber-only episodes, you will already know about this, but starting on February 1st, I am releasing a 12-episode series that I will be calling Girl Gone Running. And you will find it here with the normal Tragedy with a View episodes. And the focus is, of course, on women running and who have been murdered while they were running. The first set of 12 episodes is mostly focusing on women who have been out on the trails and out in the wilderness when these tragic events occurred. I have been working on this behind the scenes for months, so I'm so excited to finally be bringing this to you. And there is just a little asterisk on this particular series. It is going to have 8 of the episodes available to the public. 4 of those episodes will be reserved for subscribers only. So Patreon, Spotify, and Apple subscribers will get access to all of the episodes. They will be coming out weekly on Saturdays starting February 1st. So that runs us through towards the end of April that you'll be getting an extra episode every week. I'm so excited to finally bring this to you guys. I hope you enjoy. But we're not quite ready for that. And we have a different story that we will be talking about today. As the sun was rising over the mountains, casting their sharp and jagged shadows onto the ground below, a group of 6 men boarded a helicopter operated by air glaciers on April 2nd, 2024. You heard that correctly. This event occurred less than a year ago. On board were Eric Courage, Guy and Ted Hutchings, Jerome Lovey, Adam George, and James Davis Goff. Jerome was the helicopter pilot, and Adam was acting as their guide for their 4 clients, which were Edward, Guy, Ted, and James. Their destination was the peak of Petit Combin in the Swiss Alps for a heli-skiing tour. Petit Combin is a mountain in the Swiss Alps that is located near Valais, which is a territory or a state in Switzerland, also known as a canton. Fun fact, if you have read the series A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, this is the area that is home to Mount Zermatt, which is the inspiration for Valaris in the books. Moving on, because I don't want to harp on that too much. Petit Combin is a remote and challenging peak, which is why a helicopter is necessary to access the peak. Standing at 3,663 meters or 12,018 feet, the mountain is part of the Grand Combin Massif, and this area is very popular for those who can afford the price tag of heli-skiing. The mountain is known for its breathtaking views and the variety of climbing and skiing opportunities it offers throughout the year. It is a favorite among alpinists and adventure seekers looking to experience the beauty and challenge of the Swiss Alps, which the Swiss Alps is the perfect place to go to combine a love for beauty and adventure. Petit Combin offers a variety of skiing routes catering to both experienced and adventurous skiers. The South Flank route provides a long and rewarding descent through a variety of terrain. The North Ridge route offers a scenic and challenging ski, and the North Ridge is another demanding route known for its stunning views and technical skiing. Now, hang with me on the pronunciation of some of these. I did look up what the pronunciation is, but as always, if somebody knows better and they believe that I am wrong, please let me know. I am happy to correct. The Chessoir-Torin route is a route that offers a mix of rocky traverses and is also another different type of challenge. Col des Gentianes is a long run that provides a great workout and a sense of accomplishment. The Montgel Summit route allows skiers to go between a south-facing route and wind back to join up with a couple of other different routes from where they start on the summit. These routes offer a mix of powder bowls, tree skiing, colliers, and provide a diverse and exciting skiing experience. But then we also have the North Wall. The North Wall is known for its steep, icy terrain and offers a thrilling descent. It's a favorite among expert skiers who are looking for a challenge. Exactly the challenge that Edward, Guy, Ted, and James were paying for. Coming in at around 6,140 Swiss franc or 6,750 US dollars, there are cheaper options, but the cost was only part of what the men were after. Essentially, these men were after a high adrenaline adventure, and this is exactly what they were going to get. As the helicopter approached the landing site, the men had been informed of what to expect. The North Wall is a great ice climbing wall as well as a route for skiers. The North Wall has 1,400 meters or nearly 4,600 feet of vertical distance that is equally exhilarating and rewarding. Adding to that, heli-skiing is a form of off-trail downhill skiing where skiers are transported to remote, often pristine mountain slopes by a helicopter. This allows them to access areas that are otherwise difficult or impossible to reach by the traditional ski lifts. Once dropped off at the peak, professional guides accompany skiers to ensure safety and help navigate the terrain, which typically takes place on unmarked and unpatrolled slopes, offering a mix of deep powder, untouched snow, and natural obstacles. Heli-skiing is generally recommended for experienced skiers because of the challenging and variable conditions. Not to mention, like on the North Wall, the very heavy degree of angles the route contains to get to the base of the route. And people love this. Why? Skiers can enjoy breathtaking, untouched landscape. The snow is often deep, light, and untracked, providing an ideal skiing experience, and the thrill of being dropped in a remote wilderness adds to the element of adventure and excitement. Of course, safety precautions are taken wherever they can, but due to the nature of the terrain, there is a higher risk of avalanches. To combat this, guides are equipped with safety gear and trained in avalanche rescue, and this includes the avalanche beacon, but trips can be affected by weather conditions, and it is essential that participants are prepared for sudden changes. As we already mentioned, this heli-skiing trip was operated by Air Glaciers, which is a local helicopter company in the Swiss Alps. They specialize in providing heli-skiing experiences in the region, taking skiers to remote and challenging terrains. They also offer crafts and pilots for assistance in rescues as needed. So while the business is mostly in the pleasure and fun area, they do have a degree of seriousness about them. So we already mentioned there were 6 men in this helicopter on April 2nd, piloted by Jerome, who was a 34-year-old helicopter pilot from Switzerland. He had a passion for aviation and began his career as a pilot in 2017. Obtaining his license and completing additional training in mountain landscapes before he joined Air Glaciers, he also worked as a flying instructor and took on piloting jobs in St. Tropez. Jerome was known for his dedication to safety, and this would help to ensure that he would always come home to his wife, Melanie, and his daughters, Ava, who was 3, and Romy, who was 1. But this love for the mountains always seemed to call him, and he seemed to never be able to deny it. Similarly, their guide was Adam George, a 45-year-old American mountain and ski guide from New Hampshire. He was an experienced mountaineer and climber known for his experience in navigating challenging terrains. He fiercely loved his wife, Caroline, who was also a mountain guide, and their young daughter, Olivia. Adam had a passion for the mountains, and he was avidly dedicated to guiding others in skiing and climbing adventures. And then we have the 4 skiers. Edward Courage, who is the heir to Courage Brewing, which is an English brewery that was founded in 1787, and then it was acquired by Scottish and Newcastle in 1995. And he was 68 years old and had been skiing for many years and loved to challenge himself and take on new adventures, and the joy that he felt when skiing was maximized when he started heli-skiing. Edward was also known to take risks and kind of put himself in positions where he was feeling that exhilaration from the adrenaline pumping through his veins, but also being smart and safe and kind about what he was doing. Guy and Ted Hutchings were brothers from Cobham, Surrey, and were both avid skiers. Guy was 23 years old and studied product design and engineering at the University of Nottingham. With his passion for adventure sports, he also secured a job as a junior engineer for the Alpine F1 racing team. Ted, Guy's 18-year-old brother, was also an avid skier and was looking forward to testing his skills with his brother on this heli-skiing tour. Similarly, the 34-year-old James Davis Goff was looking forward to the experience and adding to his repertoire as an adventure skier. It was a crisp early morning, and the excitement of heli-skiing adventures in the Swiss Alps was palpable. Edward sat in the helicopter with a sense of appreciation. Seated next to him, Guy and Ted sat quietly with Adam next to them, and Jerome climbed into the pilot's seat. It was about 9:30 when the helicopter finally left the ground and soared above the majestic peaks, heading towards the remote and pristine slopes. Just as they were approaching their landing spot, disaster struck. It is hard to tell exactly what happened, if it was just a gust of wind or if Jerome was slightly off center, but as they were about to land, the helicopter collided with the rocky face of the north wall near the peak of Petit Combin. This sudden and violent impact of the helicopter thrown against the rock face caused confusion and panic, and then chaos ensued. The craft plummeted, triggering an avalanche that swallowed the craft. In the midst of the terror, Edward's instincts took over. Despite the searing pain from his shattered collarbone and broken ribs, he found the strength to act. He pushed Guy and Ted out of the helicopter, ensuring that they would be safe, at least from the helicopter's fall. The next few hours were a blur of agony and fear. Edward was thrown from the helicopter as it tumbled down the slope with the snow and found himself facing a crevasse. Now stranded on a narrow ledge, Edward fought to stay conscious. The threat of falling further weighed as heavy on him as his questions about those who he knew were still in the helicopter. The biting cold seeped through his clothes, and his injuries made every breath a struggle. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as he clung to life, hoping against all odds that help would come. Air Glaciers was quick to detect that something was wrong when the helicopter failed to arrive at its intended destination, and no one checked in as scheduled. So once those checks were missed, they initiated a search immediately. And then the chilling news came in. Eyewitnesses in the area reported seeing the helicopter crash and the subsequent avalanche. This, though, prompted a second immediate response from local rescue services. The combination of the missing helicopter, eyewitness accounts, and the company's alert led to the swift mobilization of rescue crews, which is one of the important factors leading to positive outcomes of a search and rescue situation. While timing is a vital part of finding survivors and being able to treat them appropriately, time is not always on everyone's side. But the rescuers had no idea what they were going to be arriving to when they got to the mountain. Back on the mountain, Edward had fallen 1,640 feet or 500 meters down the mountain as an avalanche ripped and tumbled the crash. Then, as he was swallowed by the crevasse, he survived another 100-foot fall or 30-meter fall. The helicopter, as it slid over the opening, was swallowed by the crevasse. All of this happening, the avalanche debris left behind, and the fact that Edward was on a ledge inside the crevasse made locating him or any other survivors a difficult task, not to mention the near vertical terrain that was the north wall of the mountain. The first group to actually learn of the crash was KWRO, which is a rescue organization, and they contacted Air Zermatt shortly before 10 a.m. Air Zermatt immediately dispatched 3 helicopters from bases nearby, carrying a total of 9 rescue specialists. If you hear random sniffing, I've got my puppy in my lap now. So it was at this time that Air Glaciers was already in the air. Edward's position on the ledge was precarious and dangerous, again, making it challenging for the rescue teams to reach him, let alone extract him safely. Once they arrived on scene, the teams were using avalanche beacons and GPS trackers to try to locate where the helicopter had landed while they navigated through the avalanche debris. As they continued, though, the rescue teams began to find that the rescue was not just challenging, but extremely complex. Guy and Ted were found relatively close to each other under the snow. After Edward had pushed them from the helicopter, they had also gotten swept up into the avalanche, but the quick response from the organization around them allowed them to be located quickly and dug out. One helicopter lifted the brothers to a nearby hospital for treatment. Guy had suffered from minor fractures and severe bruises and contusions, and while none of his injuries required surgery, he was bedbound for a time. Ted had fewer injuries than Guy, with being able to walk away with some minor injuries and bruising. Both Guy and Ted were released from the hospital after a short stay and were expected to make full recoveries. Things for Edward, though, were a little more complicated. Because he had fallen into the crevasse of the wreckage, it took much more time for the rescuers to locate him on the narrow ledge where he was clinging to his life. One of the avalanche transceivers was what helped the rescuers locate him, and after climbing down, they found Edward was in need of urgent medical treatment. Using a winch to pull him to safety, he was then loaded onto a helicopter and airlifted to a local hospital. Edward suffered from a shattered collarbone due to the impact of the crash and subsequent fall. He also sustained multiple broken ribs, which made breathing very difficult and required immediate medical attention. But despite their injuries, the quick response and medical care they received were crucial to their survival and recovery. Edward's heroic actions undoubtedly saved the lives of Guy and Ted. The local area was well stocked to handle rescues and challenges along the way. In this particular instance, not only did Air Glaciers have the means to manage their own search and rescues, but the local authorities and community came together as well. The Valais Region Police Force and other local agencies coordinated with rescue efforts to help support the rescue teams, and the community was there to support their needs and offered their assistance as best they could. The combined efforts of these organizations and individuals were crucial in saving the lives of Guy and Ted and providing immediate medical care to Edward. The bravery and dedication of the rescue teams were widely praised. It took all of 5 hours for Edward, Guy, and Ted to be removed from the mountain and treated for their injuries. But in the same span of time, the news that Jerome, James, and Adam had perished in the accident weighed down those around them. Edward's quick thinking and bravery saved the lives of Guy and Ted, and he has been praised by the local community and his friends for his selfless actions. The Hutchings family has expressed their gratitude and relief that Guy and Ted survived, though they are mourning the loss of the others involved in the accident. The sound of helicopter blades slicing through the air brings mixed feelings to those in need, the sound of hope and survival, and dread for those who will never rise from their grave on the mountain. As he recovered in the hospital, Edward reflected on the incredible series of events. His thoughts were with the brave souls that they had lost, Jerome, Adam, and James, and with Guy and Ted, whose lives he had saved. The experience was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the extraordinary capacity for courage and selflessness in the face of adversity. Edward's story is a profound testament to human bravery and resilience. His actions, coupled with the unwavering efforts of the rescue team, underscored the extraordinary lengths at which people will go to save lives and overcome challenges. In the face of the unimaginable, both Edward and his rescuers demonstrated unparalleled courage and determination, leaving a legacy of heroism that will be remembered and honored for years to come. And before we wrap up, I would like to leave you with the words of Adam's wife, Caroline, who made a post on April 17th, 2024 that I think is extremely important to hear. We keep waiting for you to walk in through the door, a big grin on your face from the good day of playing in the mountains. And yet, from the second I heard there had been an accident, I knew you were gone. We are in that space of acceptance and denial, where time no longer exists, and yet it keeps inching forward, all a blur. You in that freak accident, trying to put together the pieces of this unlikely puzzle to understand each second that led to your last ride tumbling down the mountain, how fate chose for some to survive and others not. You always planning for the worst. I often said, but how often had that worst case scenario you envisioned come to be? And yet, maybe deep inside, you just knew that someday the most unimaginable would happen, and you were trying to control the uncontrollable all along. I am left trying to make sense of this loss to ground Olivia in this life. She learned that life can take away what we hold dearest. I can't tell her about happily ever after because we don't know if we will get to live one more day or 100 years. That is out of our control. What we can control is each second we do get life together and plan as best as we can for the future, as death can happen to us at any moment. Adam always planned for the worst, and with that, he lived each second to the very fullest. And now that I'm crying, I hope you are too, so we are not alone in this. As always, thank you for listening. For those listening who may have loved or known the victims in the story, my heart is with you for the loss of their light in this world, and we'll chat next time. Bye. What is life without close calls with disaster? Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast to be the first to hear the now weekly episodes. Join our subscription on Patreon, Apple, or Spotify today and immerse yourself in the haunting beauty of the great outdoors. For around $4 a month, you'll get exclusive access to the first episode of each month and early access to all other episodes, showcasing the morbid and mysterious side of nature. Please reach out with story requests, and if you have your own story, please email tragedywithaview@gmail.com for a chance to have your story featured on a later episode. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.